creating clusters, and if you are talking about creating a nodes here, because definitely when you are deploying into a any machine, or if you can say when you are setting up your applications and deploying, you need to have a, there is a two kind, one is the worker node and one is the master node. Okay, so when you have either, if you can do everything onto a same node also, but it is not very much viable solution. If you have a 15 or 20 or more than 50 microservices, you need to clear cut, you can say, have a proper structure and rules which particular service will go on which particular node, and how this node will be connected, and how your master node will basically is nothing but Kube API server will basically check the health, and you can say interact with these other worker nodes. Correct. So when here you need to, when we are talking about creating a cluster and you are creating a nodes, so here you can basically start creating a cluster, and in the cluster you will have a different nodes you can create it. So one thing is that you can create the nodes with the help of AWS Fargate, which is basically AWS managed, you can say, in the instances, right? So you don't need to manage all these instances and anything, or maybe you can use your, create your own EC2 instances. So EC2 instances are nothing but, so if I will just say banking cluster. Okay. So cluster role, so I have already created. Otherwise, you can create that one of the role and you can assign some of the permissions and other things here, right? Take next. So in any particular cloud, basically you need to understand the concept of a VPC, right? So there is a, in the VPC also you need to understand, we are working into one of the reason. This is nothing but, if you will see, North Virginia, it is a US East, correct? So you also need to understand uh, in which particular region you are working in it, right? So these regions and divided into a zones, and basically over there you will have a VPC. Inside the VPC, you will have a different subnets. Correct. So this is the one of the default VPC, and these are the some subnets. So these subnets are also having a two types of subnet. One is a public subnet, one is a private subnet. So public subnet is nothing but it is attached with the one of the internet gateway. This concept is remains same for all cloud services. If you are using RDS, if you are using EC2, if you are using a Lambda or anything, you need to understand that what is the concept of VPC subnets, because there are some rules which is applicable and you will apply at the VPC level when we are talking about inbound outbound rules. And this is basically we will configure at the network access control list and with the help of routing table here. Correct. So this is very much important. You need to understand basic core concept is remain same. In GCP, you will go, there is a something we called as a firewall rule, right? That is, you will attach to any Google instance machine. And VPC level also, there is a some kind of a security where you can apply it like this. There is also a concept of, you can, one VPC can connect to another VPC. That is nothing but, we will say, VPC to VPC peering here. So let's say some of the services you are using into one VPC, another product or something in the same organization, somebody else is using is from loan app. So they are using a different VPC. And so that if you wanted to give some permission, so in that scenario, or if you wanted to access some services, you need to use a VPC to VPC peering here. Correct. There is a also, if you have a multiple VPCs are there, there is a concept of hub and spoke kind of a model when we are talking about multiple VPCs are connecting with the each other. Okay. So this way you can understand the overall concept, right? The particularly a VPC and subnet here. Security group, you need to specify one of the security, or you can create a new security group. So security group will be attached to a particular machine, and this is a very similar concept when we are talking about if you are working with the EC2 machine. So this security group will be applicable for giving some kind of inbound rules in terms of protocol, in terms of IP address and port. You can configure into security group, and we are attaching it to your master node here. So let's say if I are taking as a this default one here, correct? So this is a IP address family here, endpoint access, public and private. If you wanted to give public, you can see if there is a particularly advanced setting, you can specify and come to a next here. So till now, we have also discussed something we call as overall concept of VPC, and there are a subnet also. In that public subnet we have discussed, if you are using a private subnet, so it will be accessible through a gateways. So you need to attach that one of the gateway here. If it is a public subnet, that internet gateway will be attached to that public subnet. If it is a private subnet, so then you need to attach that another gateway here. I just net gateway, I guess. So you need to attach, and with the help of that, you can be able to access it. And why we need a public and the private subnets? The reason is some of the services which you are exposing over the internet, which is anybody can use it, right? Anybody can connect, and this URL will be accessible from some other third party for the consumption purpose. So in that scenario, these URLs can be what we can call as can connect, and you can use it as something like that. So that is for a public facing. But if your database you are using, this database is basically should not be exposed to everybody into any other publicly accessible. So you can put your database into your private subnet. There are many more other services which you don't want it to expose into publicly. You can put it into a private subnet, and then from you can give that connectivity, and then you can set it up like this. Correct. So are you guys with me so far? Hello guys. Yes or no? Quickly. Everybody. Hello. Are you guys able to hear me? Hello.
Hello.
Yes or no?
Yes, I hear you.
So the idea is I'm just giving, because this is something which I'm giving, that there are many such hidden concepts are also there when we are talking about creating one of the EKS cluster. Then you need to understand, and then you can do it, right? So first thing is that you need to understand exactly what are the core concept of a cloud, then you can come to directly for a EKS, right? So it is here, you don't need to set up any kube API server or any Kubernetes server here like this, or control plane. Everything is basically managed and created by the AWS here. That is the power here, correct? So like this, you can create that cluster, right? And once you create a cluster here, then you can basically attach that some nodes into that cluster here, right? So this way you can see, right? If you are creating that particular cluster here, and this is the, once you create, this cluster will be created, and then you can add these nodes. So nodes are nothing but the machines basically which you are using it for all this deployment purpose. Correct. But before that, you need to understand that what is the VPC and what is the code. How many guys are really know that the concept of a VPC here? Can you just say yes or no? VPC and the subnets. Hmm? Are you guys, how many guys are really know that the concept of a VPC and the subnets?
No.
Hmm. Anybody is basically has done that any such work into like this? So basically, this why I'm saying is uh, this is, you need to understand from the some fundamental things first, because I'm just giving an heads up, an idea, so that people are sometimes feeling that okay, I know, you know, all these how to create EC2 machine and all this, because all these same concept will be getting used in most of if you are going with the elastic container service, same thing will be getting used it, but you need to be very comfortable how to create a VPCs, how to create a security group, how to create and give some kind of creating some access rules and everything. right? So when we are talking about VPC, then VPC, if you are creating, because most of the things is basically you are, even though if you are creating a AWS bean stack, right? In that scenario, also that environment is automatic, that is service is also used for deployment and other purposes without the Docker and without the Kubernetes. Correct. So we have in the US East, we have a five. So we have a 17 subnets, we have a 13 routing tables, right? So like this, if you are creating any new VPCs, so when you are creating a VPC, then you can specify what is the name of the VPC and then how many public and the private subnets are there. Correct. If you don't want it to go with this, you can also use your own ways, or you can say, I don't want it to go like this setting. I can I wanted to create a VPC only, right? So if you are creating a VPC, so you can create a VPC and then you can create that number of public subnets you see two, number of private subnets you will see two. Otherwise, you need to create this public subnet, internet gateway, you need to attach it, all these things you need to do. If you wanted to customize your subnet CIDR block, which we are saying that your IP range like this, so that is you can say, as of now, there is a no such net gateway. This net gateway is chargeable. So as of now, it is not getting here, right? And there is a VPC endpoint. So if you are specifying any endpoint, so you can use that. So in this endpoints can help reduce the net gateway charges and improve the security by accessing S3 directly from the VPC. So if you are trying to access like this, right? So you can save your net gateway cost and you can create that one of the endpoint for a VPC. And then you can just say create VPC. So let's say if I'm just creating a VPC here. So in the VPC, and once you are, I will just give some details. VPC. Okay. So once you will see, right? Okay, I guess this maximum I have already done it. I need to delete some one of the VPC here. Project tab. Let me delete it and then I will create it. So these many objects, this is the internet gateway, routing table, subnets, all these things will also be getting deleted here. And this is a very much important concept when we are talking about especially AWS practitioner certification. If you are talking about AWS solution architect certification, if you are talking about working on any particular service, if you are using RDS, because definitely this RDS, if you are creating, it has to be accessible. You need to give some access, right? And then you need to, all these things will be controlled at the VPC level. Then it will be go to a what we can call as at your RDS level, correct? So RDS is nothing but your relational database. Now I have deleted. Now I will create a one more VPC. Correct. So VPC and more. So I don't wanted to put all these effort for creating other objects, internet gateway, routing table, and all this. So I'm just creating a VPC again. Now you will see, right? So it is creating a subnets, right? Internet gateway, because all these public subnets, we need to attach this internet gateway, routing table. This routing table, you will configure these rules, right? And you will also have, there is a one of the S3 endpoint. So you can see the view. So in within a few seconds, you will get this VPC. This VPC, you can use it for all your, what we can say, the purpose. Maybe if you are creating your EKS nodes, if you are setting up or EC2 instances or whatever things like that. So you can define some of the properties, rules and everything at the VPC level, or you can basically configure it in the subnet, whatever, if you are giving some access and all these things, so you can use it, correct? In the routing table here, you can see this is a hospital app VPC here. In this routing table, you can immediately come and find it out. So payment app, right? Okay. IAS, we need to see first this VPC here. So you can also come to a VPC and end the VPC also here, subnets and routing table. So you will see this is basically attached with this, right? Public routing table here, right? This is a private and this is a private one, correct? Like this, you can also, you can understand it how this routing table. So 4 routing tables has been created. You can come and see. So this is a routing table ID here. No sub, sorry. Hospital. So come to a routing tables here. Green stack deployment, private. So CIDF block, flow logs. So flow logs is also very important. If you wanted to track that all these, you can say the logs at the VPC level when we are trying to any request and all this at the VPC level, this is you will be able to track it through a flow logs here. Okay. So the main route table is this one. So this VPC has the main route table. Now you can check and where is this? Again VPC. So the idea is you need to just check that basically that routing table with this particular ID. So you can check that which particular routing table is attached with the this subnets here. So you can also go and check with the subnets, I guess, then it will be little better with us. Right. So the subnets which is associated with this VPC, and based on that subnets, you can find it out exactly uh, what is the routing table and what are the other settings are there. Okay. So this is the subnet ID, correct? So this subnet ID, now you will have this is a routing table here. Now you will see this routing table, and this routing table you will see these rules, right? So there is a routes are also attached, right? You will see this internet gateway is attached here, means this is a nothing but your public subnet here, correct? So you can see this internet gateway is also got configured here, correct? And you can just find out this internet gateway. So if you are creating only a VPC in that scenario, all these objects you need to create from your own. If you are not having that, you can say don't want it to do, all these things are automatically getting created for you like this. So you need to understand that what is the particularly first thing is that routing table, you need to understand it, correct? Gateways, you need to understand there is a egress only internet gateways, right? There is a net gateways. Especially you need to understand the concept of net gateways. You need to understand concept of a majorly for your internet gateway. There is also other concept like transit gateway and others that is maybe you can later try to explore and understand what is the purpose. But these two are very much important. Correct. So subnets, we got it right. We got the concept of a VPC. And whenever we are creating any resources, this way you can just use it. If you are going for a RDS, right? So in that scenario, so when we are creating any machines, then you can machine and nodes, you are creating it into an EKS. Once you are getting created your cluster, you can create it. So RDS is serverless, right? So when we are talking about the serverless computing, and when we are talking about creating a different servers, so one thing you need to understand it, right? If you are working as a developer or lead or maybe architect, correct? Many such times people are looking for some kind of a solution. So I have some of these guys, I'll know that who are already working as a developer and also working as a, particularly when we are talking about as a senior lead, correct? They have suggested multiple times the solutions when client is looking for a something like that, correct? So one of is the colleague was very much having a good experience at that time with for AWS, and we had working into one of the requirement. Especially it was in, you know, that in banking application. Anybody has into finance domain here? Anybody is working into finance domain? Has any idea about the finances for retail banking or corporate banking kind of site? Have you anybody has worked on it? Hmm. No one has worked here, or no, anyone is working into finance or banking side? So one of that you can say requirement was that we need to start, you can say, save the data into an database. Apart from that, we need to process our heavy files, payment files, and keep it into a one of that shared drive rather than into a local drive and things like that. So we can also use the local drive, but if you are putting into a shared drive, so it was very much kind of an hybrid solution. So hybrid solution means some of the solutions, some of the services which we are using into a AWS site, some of the services which we are using into our own environment, right? So he has proposed the solution that we are going to use our RDS. So we store, so I'm just giving a concept of also for design how you can use it. So all these files we kept it into a S3, and the file name, and then what we can say the timestamp and everything we stored into a database, correct? So based on that, if you wanted to get this file, we can get this file name and all these details from the database, and based on that we can fetch the file from a S3. Correct. But before is putting this, if you wanted to use it, then all these things are basically we need to have it into a one of that what we can call as into a bucket here. And we also need to make sure all these things are very much secure here. So there is a concept of a security for encryption as the rest. And you need to understand that how you can ensure that all these encryption so that your entire data has to be saved as far as the client is requirement here. So this guy has proposed all these solution related for encryption, related for integration, related for how we will store this data into an S3, and he really got completed successfully and got a really good appreciation. After that, he got promoted as a senior technical architect. So this is one of the solution which is basically client is looking for it, and you have given with this, right? One of this other recently we have turned into what we can call as non-IT professionals, and these non-IT professionals are completely, you can say, as a freshers, and they have done full stack training with the AWS, and the deployment is with respect to microservices deployment. So these non-IT professionals who are from mechanical and chemical background, they have done really a good job. And once you can say got a good training and then learn very well, and they started working as very well as a full stack with the AWS. So if these non-IT professionals can just start learning with that, what we can say is a full stack technology with this cloud development, so any other technical person can easily learn and easily can uh, make their good hands into a cloud development along with the technologies like that. So it is as simple as good, right? And good thing is that once these guys are basically got it, you know that this kind of a profile is really good, and all these project managers and people are really looking for that, who has having a good expertise into cloud development with the good technology stack here. So I have many such other you can say use cases I can give it, right? But this is one of the requirement. Recently, we got one of the requirement from LTI, and they started looking for cloud SME. So cloud SME who can help for cloud different services and the implementation. And definitely cloud SME has a much more better role who can help to and support to multiple other consultant and the people give some solutions like that. So in that scenario, if you really have a definitely is a one of the rare profile, and people are much more highly paid when we are talking about what we can say as a cloud expert here. Correct. So there is a still they had some more requirements are still open, but I'm just trying to tell you as far as developer, as far as the DevOps, or as far as the senior professionals, this cloud is basically adding a much more one of the necessary skills in your profile and giving a much more sense. So when we are talking about S3, so you can create that S3 and you can have a set some policies, you can set some rules, right? And if you are talking about RDS, so everybody knows that Postgres, SQL, or maybe a MySQL, we are not talking about this. You can create any way you can connect it, correct? So first, let's say, so when we are talking about S3, you can create some policy and you can create some rules. So I'm not giving a complete scenario, but I will just give it to you how you can create a bucket and how you can attach some rules and all this, correct? So general purpose, so you can just give a bucket name, let's say for file bucket here, correct? So if you wanted to give all public access or you wanted to block it accordingly, you can say block it. So if it is not publicly accessible, right? So in that scenario, it is okay, block all public access. Nobody will be able to access. But who can access, then you can configure here. So there is also versioning. There is basically a multiple variants of an object in the same bucket. So you can maintain a multiple versions for the same file, same object, something like that. So that is nothing but versioning here. And this is very important concept when we are talking about the security is concerned here, right? So everybody is talking about the security. So you can use a server-side encryption with Amazon S3. And this is one of the favorite topic when we are talking about AWS interview, when we are talking about AWS practitioner certification, AWS solution architect certification. So how you are maintaining the versioning, snapshot, what are the different storage classes, and encryption. So these three, four things you need to be basically master in it when we are talking about implementation and when we are talking about so S3, you can use a server-side manage key management system where you can get some keys and you can use it, right? Enable, disabled, right? Object lock here, right? So store objects using a read write. So in that scenario, if you wanted to enable, it will be getting logged here, correct? Write once and read many, right? So is this object locking is also very important concept when we are storing this objects or files or data into an S3 here, correct? So encryption, who can basically AWS is managing the key, or we are creating a keys and giving to an AWS, who has creator of this key like this, who is managing here, what type of algorithm we are using to use encryption for this key, all these things are basically who is managing, correct? So that we can achieve that your server side encryption or encryption at the rest here, and you can create it. Then you can define some of the policies. So is this is already there. Banking app. So if I will untick mark this, means people are will not be, now we need to block public or cross account access to a like this, or block public access to a bucket and object granted through any access control list, ACLs, correct? Or like this. So how you wanted to do it, right? So like this, then you can configure who can access this your bucket here, correct? So as of now, create. Now it is saying turn off, so that everybody, as of now, so then you can upload all these maybe. So you can use with the help of endpoint, you can configure, or some other application can also connect to your bucket and upload the files from the application to application. You can also upload the files manually and you can do it, right? That is, you can do it. So here you will see the permissions overview, correct? Here you can configure the permissions, and this way you can write some bucket policy. This is very important. Effect is allow, right? Public read get object, right? So like this, you can configure some different rules, a policy, and you can configure for the bucket level. Okay. And you can edit it and you can basically configure. So this kind of a syntax, you can use it and you can configure here. Simple. So this is an ARN for your this bucket here. So my bucket name is this, and this is the ARN, right? Resource name, correct? So here you can configure like this, and this is very important. If you wanted to configure the policies like this, you can configure the permissions, right? Management. So access point is also very much important. If you wanted to have this access point, right? So you can create an access point are named network that are attached to a bucket with simplify and manage data access at scale in S3. So this access point, you can use it to basically, if you wanted to work, or maybe network endpoints to work on this particular bucket here. So that is for your endpoints, which we are talking about. Correct. So as I told you, when your application is connecting, it is not through, it has to be some through endpoints only. Correct. Now, if you are talking about management, this is also very important. So life cycle of these objects are very important, right? And there is some rules. So when we are talking about what is the means, basically when we are talking about life cycle, this particular objects which we are creating it here, right? Height, how much times you wanted to hear, or you wanted to push it for some kind of a cold storage or something like this, right? So you can also understand that transition object to another storage class. So there are a different storage class. This concept is also remain same when we are talking about, especially uh, for, do you wanted to expose 0 to 30 days frequently access, or maybe 30 to 90 days, right? Sometimes you wanted to use, right? There are more than, you can say, 3 to 6 months or later like this. So like this. So if it is you are putting these objects into frequently access 0 to 30 days, the charges are much more higher. If something you are putting into a kind of rarely accessible like this, the charges of what we can say, this kind of storage classes are little low. So you can set that life cycle rule so that your lab files and all these things can be moved from that one of that storage class and can be getting transferred. So this is also very important point, and many such times it is very much required. If you are processing some logs, storing into an S3, there are some kind of files, image files, you are using it, and then you are keeping it for. So, and this is a very frequently asked questions when we are talking about AWS solutioning, when we are talking about AWS practitioner certification, if you are talking about different other, you can say the scenarios when we are talking about AWS. Are you guys with me so far? Hello guys. Huh? Are you guys are able to hear me? Hmm? So guys, just be on some interactive here, right? It is not like this. So if you'll get some idea, I'm just trying to tell you, because AWS is very vast. right? I'm just giving a heads up, an idea. You can get some glimpse on it, and then you can do from your own. So you can keep on continuing on these things. I'm just giving a heads up some of the which is commonly used services, and which is a much more required in terms of your starting point, and if you are talking about interview purpose and all this. Correct. So because the AWS have many more services, if you are talking about caching, right? So this is we are talking about. In the same way, there are many more other services are also there, which is when we are talking about, especially if you wanted to implement the caching here, right? So there is a elastic cache, right? There is a also CloudFront. So elastic cache is an in-memory case if you wanted to use it, maybe through a Redis or Memcached, right? So which cache you will use it in which are the scenarios, right? So do you, what is the, there is a concept of a throughput. So there are some scenarios where you have a very high throughput, then you will use it, right? And there is a something which is basically you wanted to use it for, okay, just for integration, and you are trying to fetch some data like this. So there are different scenarios you will use the different. There is a CloudFront. So CloudFront is also one of the very important service. When we are talking about CloudFront, is basically it will help it to you for improving your performance of your application. So if you have some of the images which you are using it into when we are talking about particularly accessing from, let's say if you have e-commerce application, and this application you are using it, right, from, you can just configure your caching policy and all this, that is you can configure, but I'm just giving an idea. So whenever you wanted to, don't wanted to send, let's say if you are storing all these images on S3, every time person is hitting to checking the products and all these details in your site, so you will need to fetch it from S3 or maybe from some database, and you will display it. So it will basically unnecessarily taking a time, and also because of network latency, load, and so many things like that. So rather than, what you can do, you can create a cache at the, you can say, CloudFront level. So it will do some caching here. There are some frequently access images, objects, it will cache it and it will display it. So maybe you can configure that caching time for 24 hours or something like that, so that till that time it will hold. Again, it will be sending a request and it will load it. So that is the idea here. So you can configure the path and system like this, right? Also, based on the reason, right? If you are having getting the much more frequent requests from any particular reason, here we are talking about, let's say Virginia, UST, one US, also you can optimize the performance. That is the idea here. So as I told you, right, cloud is providing a much more better, if this kind of facility, if you are implementing in your own application, it is not very much simple and easy. So that you can cache it, some of the application, you can say images and you can send it. If you are, I'm saying that you need to encrypt your application, you can say all the files and keep it into a directory, and you need to manage all these keys and everything. It is not very simple and easy when you are implementing into an enterprise application. So that's why cloud is much more powerful and providing a ready-made tested services here. So you can directly start using and you can configure here. Are you guys with me so far? Okay, so like this, you can use a CloudFront, right? So you can just try to understand and read much more details about the CloudFront. You will understand at solution level how to prepare a CloudFront. You can attach this CloudFront, or maybe you can path provide that domain path, and then you can just do it. So check for a CloudFront. S3 you can check it. EKS we have discussed, and another thing is that very important and thing is that IAM, right? So IAM policy. So identity and access management. Many such times, all these services is require that IAM, you can say, involvement. So if the service is connecting to another service, there has to be some role attached. And this role is basically nothing you need to configure from the IAM. Okay. So when we are talking about IAM, so IAM roles, and you will see there are a different roles, correct? And these roles are nothing but there are a user group roles and the policies, correct? So you can create a single user, or maybe you can create a group, and this you can attach these roles to a group like this. Okay, so if we have, let's say 23, there are some ready-made roles are also there, right? Which is Amazon itself provide here, right? So you will see Amazon Elastic Beanstalk EC2 role. So this role you need to attach it when we are creating the environment, basically, correct? So permission policies, this roles has some particular policies, and based on the policies, it will have some access and some rights. So policies are nothing but you have created some of the rules, which these rules are basically helping it to you for performing some operations. So in case of when we are talking about, you say limited access, read, tagging, and write here, correct? So this particularly a policy here, this way you can also see this policy you can define into a JSON format. So ECS poll, right? So all these things you can see, this is the action here, right? Resource, correct? So like this, you will see every particular policy will have a this policy is attached to these roles here. This role you can attach to user group and user, what we can call as either user group or individual user. So it will never be happen like this. One particular, what we can say, the person is having all these rules or all these access. These access will be controlled by the rules as well as what we can call as policies. So these roles will be attached to user, right? So the whenever you create a sub users, you will attach some roles and you will attach some policies here. So like this is you need to understand it, correct? And there are many more things is there. So idea is as much as you will be master into what we can call as all your concept when we are talking about AWS, right? So we have discussed some database serverless, API gateway and load balancer. We didn't discuss it, but we have discussed S3. We have discussed the storage classes, and we have discussed. So CI/CD pipeline is also not yet discussed, but you guys can also just look for, and maybe some other session we will discuss it. So CI/CD pipeline also you can implement at this level here, correct? So as a developer, some of the services you need to be very much aware. As a DevOps engineer, some of the services you need to be very much aware, correct? But if you are really having a good experience into, let's say, Java with microservices or something like that, you can get a much more better visibility when we are talking about if you have experience on the cloud, either a microservice development and the deployment, or if you have a certified person here like this, so the visibility will be very high, and also you will attract much more better opportunities, correct? So recently his name, one of the person, his name is Sandeep. So he has done that certification into a AWS solution architect, also learned the microservice development. Now he has joined as a senior architect in one of the leading firm here, correct? And really leading is one of the good project and working for one of the best clients here. So I have like this many such people, an example here who is working into overseas also, and who is having here. I can also show it to you some of the requirement into overseas. So if you look for dice.com or any other LinkedIn, you will see some of the good requirements where you will have a full stack development microservices with AWS. So, and they are really paying really very high here. So you need to understand that this is entire things. So do you know that there is a no such code we are doing it, but you need to understand the core concept, and it is very simple and easy. So if non-technical people or non-IT professionals can just basically do some work into a full stack with the AWS, anybody can do it. Okay, so it's not very tough, but you need to understand how you can learn and what are the things you can do it. Correct? Are you guys with me so far? Right? So this is what I can say here. So technical presentation is over here, right? If you guys have any other doubts or any other questions, you can unmute and we can discuss. Anyone has any other doubt, you can definitely unmute and then we can discuss here. Okay, so any questions you can put it, then we can take it up. Okay. So technical presentation is over here, right? If you have any other question, definitely you can push it. No. And if you had just joined for information purpose, you can still leave it, right? So we have completed, right? Because as I told you, this AWS is very vast. So we cannot, I can just give an overview of some of the services and how it works, right? Then you need to take it and explore it because it take time to implement one of the creating an environment and things and implementing it here, right? But you can start taking up if you just got some idea, so you can take it into your next level and you can implement it, correct? So this is what I can say. Now, if you really want to scale or maybe upgrade your skill, right? So I can give it to you one more solution here. So basically what you can do, you can learn this AWS also along with your core concept here, correct? So it will give a much more sense, and then also you will be able to understand how you can implement the real-time projects. Also, you will understand how to debug the application here. So ultimately, you will get exactly what this industry is looking for it, correct? So is there anybody who is a DevOps engineer here? Anyone? Or all of you are a developer here only? So nobody is as a DevOps engineer here. So Dhaula, okay. So you are learning into a DevOps. Okay. So are you a Java developer or you are a DevOps engineer? So if you are learning a DevOps engineer, good thing is, but you need to understand the first, you need to master into your tools here, and then you can learn for what we can call as for cloud development. Or maybe you can learn some of the cloud development and then you can mix with your tools with the cloud deployment majorly. So there are some certain tools you need to learn, and these tools, how it will be used into a cloud, that is you need to get it into it, correct? So the facility, if you are really learning that cloud development, right? So in-depth knowledge is really helping it to you, right? And if you are latest technology and the experience with cloud deployment and the development here, Docker, Kubernetes, cloud pipeline, CI/CD pipeline, this is basically required for developers as well as for DevOps engineers also, correct? Apart from that, if you communication skill is really very important concept factor here when we are talking about as far as you wanted to grow. So the idea is this is there are a 3-4 things you need to understand when we are talking about if you wanted to grow in your professional career or if you wanted to grow in your what when we are talking about switching the job here, correct? So 60 people, 40 people are working into a same team. Still only 3 or 4 people are always a best performer. Why 46 people or 56 people are not best performer? They know the technology, but still they are not. So there are something they are doing which is other people are not doing. Some people are really potential candidate. They got on-site opportunities early. They got some appreciations, right? So you need to understand what are these qualities basically, correct? It is not like there's always your manager is doing some favorism or maybe they are looking for some people who are listening to them, correct? So that is very important concept, your attitude, your approach, technical skills, communication skills, and many such things. That is you are making your profile a little better. Apart from that, you need to have a thorough understanding and approach how to solve the problems and how to debug the applications, correct? And then how you can align your resume with particular any job role, right? It's not like that you can give any interview for SRE engineer also suddenly you are giving for some kind support roles or like this. So you need to align your profile with the particular job roles and prepare the resume like this, and then you can start giving an interview. So this way is basically you can get what you wanted, right? So your technical skills, your communication skills, and all these things. Correct. So that is what I can say, right? So we have prepared the step by step complete what we can say the learning path, right? As per the discussion with multiple job requirements, multiple you can say consultant or maybe technical architects or the people who are working into enterprise projects, because whenever training requirements, whenever they are looking for some kind of hiring requirements, so we generally got that exactly what they are looking for it. So the common scenarios, if you are talking about especially microservices with the cloud development, right? You can learn it. It will be really good. And once you will learn this microservices with the cloud development is basically, it is really making a much more sense. And so we have created a complete, what we can say the learning path here. And this learning path is nothing but that entire content, how to prepare your entire interviews as well, and you can master into a Java technology side here. So you can master into a Spring Boot and microservices. Apart from that, core concept of your Java, performance optimization, design and everything, correct? So this way you can, I will share that, I guess there is some other issue here. So you will get all these things, right? So when we are talking about, I will share that site URL. You can open this site URL into your own tab here. There is some other issue. Okay, like this. Okay. Many such free videos also you can search it for into a YouTube here, right? So you can find it out. As far as the Java technical professionals, you can, so we have covered that multiple things, right? For capstone project, Java design, fundamentals of core concept, right? Then you will learn that Kafka and that AWS fundamental course where which we have discussed here, correct? Then Kubernetes fundamentals, and then database, right? Advanced concept here, how you can integrate database design, JPA, Spring Boot, and microservices, and all microservices patterns, which is basically very much required when you are planning to implement that microservices here. So this way, it is a much more required curriculum here, so that you can become start your journey and become a pro. So if you wanted to really wanted to become, anybody has experience into a microservices here? Anyone has it? Any experience into a microservices basically? So if no experience, so I suggest it, guys, you can start learning microservices with,
Hello, can you hear me now?
sorry,
Hello, can you hear me now?
your voice is coming low, Mohsin.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Ha.
Yeah, I have a
You
microservices.
have it. Okay, good, good.
Yeah, but 1 year, not
How
more than
many years experience you have microservices?
1 year.
Good, good. So are you having any experience with microservices with the DevOps tools and AWS also?
No, no, not AWS.
So you have deployed your microservices in your local,
Local
what we
DevOps.
can say, your own environment?
Not a cloud environment and local.
Acha, okay, okay, good, good. And so are you using all these concept and features from some freeware resources like Eureka Discovery and all this?
No, no,
Huh?
not all the services.
Okay, not
Yeah,
all, but
yeah,
some app you have
some,
developed
yeah,
like this, na?
yeah, 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 yeah.
So you can little take that learning in the extended level. Now
Yes.
microservices solutions, and there are different tools at different level are available into a current implementation in current market, correct? For log aggregation, for monitoring, for many such things. And there is a, if you will really wanted to go little next level, you need to learn this microservice development with the cloud development. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, yeah.
And also some sort of a knowledge with the Docker and Kubernetes. So it will really give a much more sense to your profile.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why I guess if you look for any other job requirement in Naukri, you will get this idea here, right?
Okay.
This is basically, we got some requirements. We have done some interview and process also recently. So we were searching for two technical managers, two technical leads, and five developers. So still we didn't get it from our community from Mumbai, one of the product-based location, product-based company. Right now we are looking for at least 60, 70 trainers plus consultants, but still we are not getting from the community. So there are a huge opportunities, right?
Okay.
Consulting from others, right? So this will keep coming, right? As far as you have a good knowledge and skills, this will be keep on coming here, correct? So the cost of this, we kept it very low, right? This entire cost, if you'll calculate here, AWS, SQL, Java design, then Docker, Kafka, Spring Boot, JPA, and then you will get that 2 days live session, right? And every Saturday, long-lasting sessions you will get for support, and you will get a community support on your WhatsApp as well as for on the email for really queries and doubts. So everything, if you will include, it will be costing around more than 70,000 plus. But on the discount, you will get it into a 10,000 rupees only. Okay. And it is much more flexible. So you can accommodate as per your you can say current workload. So beside to that, you can just do parallel work here. It is not like you need to do a parallel task, parallel project like this, but we have make it is very simple, and you will get a lifetime access for all the content, and we keep updating on the content, and you will get some latest updates and details. So this is what I can say. And if you want really much better offer, so for this time, for today itself, if you are just signing up, you can get this entire microservices into a 6,999 as far as you have attended the webinar here. So you can also get it into a, what we can say, into a 6,999 here. This is the best what we can do if you are just signing up today, and you can learn it like this. Okay, so many such people, student feedback and comments as I given it, right? Recently, one of this guy here, he has a 3 years of experience who was working into a mainframe. He learned that full stack and the microservices joined is one of the best service-based company. At least got that 3, 4 offers here, right? His name is Subhashish. There is a one more person here. Senior one of the lady was working with us, learning from lost the job in 2018-19. So during the COVID, she started learning here. I guess in 2 to 3 months, she got an offer. And recently, she got promoted as a needed senior position as a manager. And actually, she got a really a good hike here. So I can say this is really, I have many such use case and stories like this, but many people got a really good results here. So you can also become one of them. If you are really interested to do something, you need to take some steps. Another thing is that um, how much you are serious about it, and do you really need it? So if you really wanted to get out of this frustration and pain, and do you wanted to become someone who can have a choice to which company I should join, or you wanted to become like this, whatever I will get, I will join it. So I have also gone through one of the mistake, and I have joined the company again. It was very frustrating. But if you have a multiple offers, and then you can basically go with this. Then you can do some research, and then you can say, okay, I can join this company and I can release or neglect some other offers. So then you need to upgrade your skills and match your profiles, communication skills, your attitude, and there are other things. Then you can really become very successful into that side here. Okay. So this is basically a combination of all this. And it is nothing like a rocket science here. And it is a very general concept, right? But thing is that always you need to keep updating yourself, right? Then you need to also work on your little bit communication skill and attitude side, and you need to very much align into an industry requirement skills. Correct. So like this, and if you really wanted to go with little expert level here, so we also have a little advanced course here. In this advanced course, you can go ahead with the complete CI/CD pipeline with React and everything, ELK stacks or all this. So that is also you can look for it. So we have given both these course and these details. If you find out really, you can think this can really help it to you, or if you wanted to change something, so you can just process it. Apart from that, I can say if you look for a return of investment, so this is a very low, right? If you will get, people are getting at least 30-40% hike, you will get a bare minimum 30 to 3 lakhs to 4 lakhs hike here. And only you need to pay here, so you can understand whatever amount you are paying and how much returns you are getting it. Correct. And biggest mistake people are doing it, so people are doing something, even I used to do it. So basically we, whenever we start learning, rather than we do some research, we learn something from here, some 2 points from here and there. But if you will really do a structured way of learning with someone, then it can, the output or the outcome will be very high. Apart from that, you don't need to put some extra time and effort, and you can save your energy and time and money when you are going with the structured way of learning with someone. So this is the basically people are doing a mistakes, and generally people don't understand it, right? And we think about that, okay types, right? It is not very much required. But if you will see in good companies, they keep on giving a training to their higher management and the leadership. But nobody is talking about that at entry level or mid-level management or mid-level people here, neither for a technical nor for non-technicals. So we need to keep updating ourselves, and we need to keep, you can say, work on ourselves from our own. So that is from my side, guys. I think I have done right. So if you have any other questions, definitely you can use the WhatsApp group, or that is there here. You can join, or maybe you can send a mail, right? I hope you have enjoyed the session, or any other question or comments, definitely you can reply to us. So I can say thank you very much, guys, to attending this webinar here. Thanks a lot. So with this, I'm just closing it.
Yeah, thank you. Hello. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, I'm able to
Yes,
hear you, Mohsin.
yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.